today I'm going to take you through a morning yoga sequence. So we're going to be building up a little bit of heat in the body and beginning to stretch into the major muscle groups. So we'll start today taking a dragonfly. We're going to spread the legs nice and wide, and we want to find this stretch into the groin and maybe a little bit into the backs of the legs too. So maybe you're feeling it already, just being in this seated upright position, that's completely fine. If you're not quite, beginning to draw the torso over, maybe taking the forearms to the ground, maybe crawling the hands further along. We're going to be here for a minute in total, so about 40 seconds left to go, allowing the head and the neck to completely relax. Gravity's taking you deeper into this pose. Finding stillness in the body and setting yourself an intention for the practice ahead. It could be a word which you want to introduce more into not just your yoga practice, but your everyday life, or it could be something around your practice itself, perhaps about not comparing yourself to what you think you should be doing, or about simply focusing on the breath. We'll be here for another 10 seconds. Option to crawl the hands out a little bit deeper if you want to intensify the stretch. Of course, you never need to go deeper. Taking a final long deep breath. Crawling the hands into the body one by one, doing so slowly. And then rocking the body over to all fours. Stacking the hands underneath the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips as we warm up into the spine. So spreading the fingertips nice and wide. The toes can be tucked or they can be untucked like mine. On our next inhale, we're going to arch with the back, taking the gaze up, doing this slowly for our first one. We'll hold an extra breath here. We're gently pulling the belly button towards the spine. We're getting that nice arch with stretching between the shoulder blades. On your next exhalation, we're going to dome the top of the back. We're going to take the gaze to the navel. Again, we're going to hold this for an extra breath for our first one. We're really pushing the fingertips into the mat. Inhaling, drawing the chest up, taking the gaze ahead. Exhale, dome in the back, gaze to the belly button. Taking one more like this. Going a little bit deeper this time. Inhaling to arch with the back. Exhaling to dome, drawing that belly button towards the spine. And now for your next 3 rounds of breaths, making any movements which feel good here. Maybe it's swaying the hips side to side. Maybe it's working a little bit more into the wrists, dropping back into a child's pose. Or like I'm doing, really significantly bending into my elbows as I feel a lot of tension into my arms today. Anything at all here which feels good. Maybe closing the eyes for your final round of breath. And then keeping the hips above the knees, we're going to walk the hands out one by one, finding a puppy dog pose. Maybe the forehead reaches the mat. Maybe you want to come onto the fingertips. And here beginning to introduce those deeper inhalations and exhalations. If you ujjayi breaths, part of your practice, focusing on that. Otherwise, just focusing on having an equal breath today. And by that I mean your inhalation or exhalation being the same length. Ideally in and out through the nose. Taking one more long deep inhale here. Exhale, pushing the hands into the ground. Coming back through to all fours. We're going to tuck under with the toes and lift up with the hips. Finding our way into that downward dog. If it's the morning time for you, knowing that it's completely normal for this to feel stiff. And what I find really good here is pedaling out the feet one by one, what we call walking our dog. And any other movements as well which serve you are completely right to do here. Maybe it's wriggling the hips from side to side. Maybe it's coming through to a plank position and back up with the hips. Taking another deep round of breath, staying here for the exhale. And then we're going to one by one walk the feet to the front of the mat, bending the knees here as much as you need to. You're going to hear me saying that a lot. It's always pretty much the right thing to do to bend the knees if you're tight in the backs of the legs. Taking hands around opposite elbows when you do reach the front of the mat. Head, neck completely relaxed. Trying to get the chest or the belly onto the thighs. And what I need to do here too is bend the knees quite significantly to do that. Swaying maybe from side to side, finding that beautiful opening all the way into the back of the body. So we're working into the calves, the hamstrings, the lower, middle, upper back, a lot going on here. And on your next inhalation, we're going to draw the body all the way up to standing. Fingertips rising, gaze rising too. And maybe taking that gentle little back bend at the top, finding that slight arch in the back, hands through to heart center. Inhaling, reaching up with the fingertips, gaze up to the ceiling. Exhale, finding that way into your forward fold, keeping the movement still nice and slow, allowing the head, the neck to relax. Inhale to take the hands onto the shins, drawing the gaze forwards. We're going to do 3 like this. Exhaling to fold, a little bit of a bend in the knees. Inhaling again, taking the gaze forwards, halfway lift. Sucking the belly in. Exhaling to fold. 1 more like this. Inhaling to take the gaze forwards, maybe moving the weight more into the big toes here. Exhaling to fold. Taking both hands onto the ground, we're going to step back, but just with the left foot. Taking the ball of that left foot to the ground, dropping down with the knee. The front knee is significantly bent here. We're finding a stretch into the left hip flexor. So we're squaring the hips to the front. If this is very intense, you can always use the hands onto the mat here. We're inhaling here deeply. We're exhaling here smoothly. The crown of the head is drawing us up towards the ceiling. You can take the hands to heart center. You can extend the arms, whatever feels good here. We'll take 1 more deep round of breath. Focusing on the sensations into that left hip flexor. And then we'll draw the left fingertips backwards, the right fingertips forwards, and take the gaze to that back left hand. So we're opening here into the chest. We're still getting that stretch into the hip flexor. We're inhaling here deeply. And we're exhaling here smoothly to bring that left hand forward once again, before placing the left hand onto the inside of the right foot, tucking under with the left toes and reaching up with the right fingertips. You've always got the option to drop that back knee to the ground again. We're drawing backwards with the left heel. We're opening into the chest. Maybe our right hand comes a little further backwards too. We're inhaling here deeply once again. We're exhaling here smoothly to unravel. We're dropping that back knee to the ground. We're crawling the hands closer towards the hips so that we can begin to find a straightening into the front leg. And then once we've found that, we're finding that stretch into the calf and the hamstring. We're drawing the toes towards and away from the stretch, from the face. Inhaling deeply to draw the toes towards you. Exhaling smoothly to take them away. Doing 1 more like this. Inhaling here deeply. Exhaling here smoothly. We're planting the right foot onto the ground, taking hands onto either side of it. We're tucking under with the left toes, right foot back to meet the left. Finding high plank. So here we want to be a straight line from the crown of the head, which is drawing forwards, right to the heels, which are drawing backwards. We're pushing the fingertips into the ground. You've always got the option to drop the knees to the ground. We're inhaling here once more. Exhale, dropping the knees. Slowly lowering the chin and the chest all the way down, but keeping the hips drawing upwards. We're rippling the body forwards. We're finding Sphinx pose. So planting the forearms onto the ground, we're looking upwards. Inhaling here deeply. And exhaling here smoothly. We'll take another round of breath. Finding that stretch into the lower middle back. It may feel quite intense. On your next exhalation, dropping the chest all the way down, tucking under with the toes, planting the hands onto the sides of you. We're rocking up through to all fours and then back into our downward facing dog. Feel free to move the hands and the feet into a position which works for you. Option again to make some movements in this down dog, or perhaps finding stillness. And a few tips for you is to have the feet hip width apart, hands about shoulder width apart, but we're drawing up with the hips towards the ceiling, and that might mean that you need to bend the knees significantly. This pose is more about finding a straight spine than it is about finding straight legs. Finding 1 more deep inhalation, clawing the fingers into the ground. We're taking as much weight out of the wrists as we can. On our next inhalation, we're rocking onto the balls of the feet. We're taking the gaze forwards. 1 by 1, we're stepping the feet behind the hands. Doing so slowly again, finding that stretch on the back of the legs as we walk forward. We're exhaling to find our forward fold. On your next inhalation, finding our way all the way up to standing, leading with the fingertips, leading with the gaze towards the ceiling, maybe a gentle back bend. Exhale, finding hands through to heart center. Inhaling again, reaching up with the fingertips. Exhale, finding our way all the way down through to our forward fold. We're inhaling again, finding that halfway lift, flat back and a gaze forwards. Exhale to plant the hands, this time stepping back just with the right foot, ball of the foot onto the ground, knee onto the ground, hands through to either heart center, the ground, the hips, or draw them up towards the ceiling. Finding the stretch into the right hip flexor. We're squaring with the hips towards the front of the mat. The back heel is drawing backwards. Inhaling here deeply. Exhaling here smoothly. Growing tall through the crown of the head as you inhale. Exhale to stay. On your next inhalation, we're going to take the right fingertips behind us, left fingertips in front of us, and take the gaze to that back right hand. We're opening here into the chest. We're taking the gaze back maybe to the fingertips. Inhale here deeply. Exhaling here smoothly. Right hand's coming forwards to meet the left. Right hand onto the inside of the left foot. Tucking under with the right toes, lifting up with the left fingertips. So here we're opening into that left glute in the IT band, as well as into the chest. Maybe taking the left hand a little further backwards. Inhaling here deeply. Exhaling here smoothly. We'll slowly unravel, so dropping that back knee to the ground. Hands coming onto either side of the left foot as we begin to straighten into that leg and walk the hands in towards the hips. Inhale to draw the toes towards the face. Exhale to point the toes away from us. Inhaling again, drawing the toes in towards the face. Exhale, pointing them away. Taking one more like this. Finding that deep stretch into the calf. Planting that left foot onto the ground, hands onto either side of the left foot. As you tuck under with the right toes, left foot back to meet the right. Finding that high plank once again, which will hold for a breath. Heels drawing backwards, fingertips clawed into the ground, shoulders are over the wrists. Dropping the knees to the ground once again, slowly lowering chin in the chest. We'll come into a baby cobra, so thighs are on the ground, hands are just creeping off the ground, shoulder blades drawing together. Inhaling here deeply. Exhale, planting the hands smoothly, tucking under with the toes, rocking through all fours, finding our way back into that downward facing dog. Perhaps finding stillness, or maybe making some movements with the hips from left to right. Finding that deep inhalation, that deep exhalation. Taking one more breath here, always remembering we can bend the knees as much as we need to. Rolling onto the balls of the feet on your next inhalation. Stepping, maybe taking a little hop to the front of the mat on your exhalation, forward folds. Inhale all the way up to standing, fingertips drawing up, gaze drawing up too, hands through to heart center as you exhale. Finding our way into our chair pose, Utkatasana. So big toes to touch, heels slightly apart, dropping down with the sit bones as we reach up with the fingertips, belly button pulling in towards the spine. Inhaling here to grow taller. Exhaling to sink the hips a little bit deeper. Taking one more inhale here. Exhale, planting the hands. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhale, planting hands onto the ground, stepping, maybe floating the feet back. Finding your high plank. Option for a full chaturanga, or come with me. Taking knees, chest, chin to the ground. Inhale, rippling forwards, either an upward facing dog or the cobra we did before. If you're taking up dog, thighs are off the ground, belly buttons pulling in towards the spine and the gaze is at neutral. On your next exhalation, hips drawing up, downward facing dog. Taking 3 breaths here. Focusing once again on those long, deep inhalations, those long, deep exhalations. On your next inhale, we're going to lift up with the right heel, 3-legged dog. So we're finding an extension into the back of that left leg. We're squaring the hips to the front, We're pushing the fingertips into the ground. Inhale here once more. Exhale, drawing that knee forwards, maybe it brushes the nose. Before planting it between the hands, as we lift up into a high lunge, so both feet are tracking forwards, hands either to heart center or extending the fingertips towards the ceiling. We're finding this stretch again into the left hip flexor. We're bending into the front knee, we're building strength into both legs here. Inhaling here once more. Exhale, turning that back foot 90 degrees, arms onto either side of the body, warrior two. Gaze over the middle finger. We'll inhale to straighten into the front leg. We'll exhale to bend, and we'll do two more like this. So inhaling to straighten. Exhaling to bend. We're pushing into the ground with that back leg foot. Inhaling here to straighten. Exhale to bend, shoulders away from the ears. Heel toeing that back foot in slightly. We're finding Trikonasana, our triangle pose. Straightening the front leg, hips drawing backwards, fingertips drawing forwards, back of the right hand onto the inside of the leg as you reach up with the left fingertips. Opening here into the left side of the body, the chest, and also the back of that right leg. Inhale here deeply. Exhaling here smoothly, slowly unravel. Back through to that warrior two. But taking the back foot a little further behind you if you moved it, bending into the front knee. Front forearm onto the front leg and reaching over the left fingertips. Side angle pose again, finding a stretch into the left side of the body. A significant opening, twisting into the chest here. Option to take a bind if that's part of your practice. Inhaling here deeply. Exhaling here smoothly, slowly unravel back to warrior two, last pose in our standing sequence. Moving that right foot over to the right top corner of the mat. Turning the toes in just to 45 degrees. Interlacing the hands behind the back. Reaching up with the chest towards the ceiling as you suck the belly button towards the spine. Bending into the front knee as you draw the crown of the head to the ground. So that right shoulder is coming onto the inside of the right knee. This is my favourite standing pose. So much going on in the body here. We're opening into the chest and the shoulders. Somewhere I've got a lot to work on. We're getting strength building into our legs. We're also working into the groin. We'll inhale here once more. We'll exhale to push the hands into the ground, lifting the body back up and cartwheeling hands onto either side of that right foot. Right foot back to meet the left, high plank. Finding your vinyasa, so either knees, chest, chin, or a full chaturanga. Meeting through your back bend of choice, maybe upward dog, maybe cobra. Exhale, pushing up, downward facing dog. Before we move on to the opposite side, we're going to spread the knees nice and wide, taking a wide knee child's pose. Chest drawing down towards the mat, but it doesn't matter if you're upwards like I am. We're finding the stretch here into the groin. Perhaps big toes touch. We'll take another 2 deep breaths, maybe closing the eyes. Inhaling here deeply. Exhaling here smoothly, beginning to unravel. So taking once again, knees below the hips, tucking under with the toes, hands in front, lifting up with the hips, downward facing dog. We'll move straight onto the other side. So this time, left heel's rising towards the ceiling, finding that three-legged dog once again. A lot going on in this pose. We're squaring the hips to the front. We're pushing the hands deeply into the ground. We're taking our gaze either to the inside of that right foot or maybe to the belly button. Inhaling here once more. Exhale, stepping that foot forward. Firstly, brushing onto the knee if you can, in between the hands as we lift up into our high lunge. Both hips are square towards the front of the mat. Perhaps hands at heart center. Perhaps extending the fingertips towards the ceiling. Inhaling here deeply. We're exhaling here smoothly. We're sucking the belly button towards the spine. We're turning that foot to the back foot to 90 degrees on our next inhalation. Exhale, drawing the arms onto either side of the body. Gaze over the front middle finger. Inhale to straighten into the front leg. Exhaling to bend. Taking 2 more like this. Inhale to find straightening. Exhaling to bend. Still pushing into the ground with that back foot. Inhale to straighten. Exhaling here to bend. Heel toeing that back foot in slightly. We're going to find our Trikonasana. Hips are drawing backwards, fingertips forwards. Back of the left hand onto the inside of the leg. Reaching up with the right fingertips. Finding that opening into the back of the left leg. The right side of the body and the chest. You can always have a little bit of a bend into that front knee, especially if you know you've got vulnerable knees. On your next inhalation, we're going to unravel. We're going to find our way back to our warrior two. So it might mean we need to heel toe that back foot slightly further backwards again. We're going to take the left forearm onto the front leg and reach over with the right fingertips, side angle pose. Breathing here deeply, opening into the right side of the body. On your next inhalation, gently unraveling back through to that warrior two. Heel toeing the left foot over to the top left corner of the mat. Tucking the right toe slightly further inwards, so to a 45-degree angle. Interlacing the hands behind the back. On your next inhalation, reaching up with the chest. Exhale, left shoulder onto the inside of the left knee. Opening into the shoulders, the chest, building strength into the legs. Pushing the outside of that right foot into the ground. A lot going on into the body here. Taking a full round of breath. Inhale, pushing the feet into the ground, reaching back up, finding our upright position before cartwheeling hands onto either side of that left foot drawing back to meet the right. Final vinyasa. I'm going to take a full one. So I'm taking the weight slightly further forwards over the wrist and dropping down just 90 degrees with a straight body. And flipping over the feet one by one, belly button sucked in, crown of the head drawing up. And then hips drawing up, downward facing dog. What looks like a simple movement, it's actually a lot going on, it's really complex. Slowly, gently, we're going to lower the knees to the ground. We're going to tuck under with the toes and sit back onto our heels. This is actually my favourite seated posture. There's a lot going on in the body here in this toe squat, and it can feel really, really intense, especially if you're new to doing a toe squat. So you've always got the option to take some of the weight in front of you. If you're feeling quite open here, and perhaps like me, you've done this a lot of times before, we're going to interlace the hands and pushing them out in front of us. So we're doming into the top of the back. We're finding a beautiful opening down the arms, between the shoulder blades. We're going to breathe here deeply. Inhaling to create space. Exhale, perhaps going a little bit deeper, taking one more deep inhalation. Exhale, dropping the hands back onto the thighs. We'll unravel from our toe squat. We're going to take both legs out in front of us. We're going to tuck the toes in towards our face. And then back out again. We'll do this one more time. Inhale, sucking them in towards the face, belly button sucked in towards the spine. Exhale, pointing them out again. Final time, inhale, drawing them in towards the face, drawing the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Exhale, folding forwards. You can keep a little bit of bend in the knees here. We want to find a flat back. You can see that I'm really limited here with my spinal flexibility. So that's why, even though I've got very open hamstrings, I can't actually go very far forward in this position, but that's okay. I'm feeling the stretch, a 7 out of 10. That's where we want to be. The legs are engaged because the toes are tucked in. We'll inhale here once more. And we'll exhale to cross the legs. We're going to move the fleshy parts of the sit bones so we're sitting onto the ground evenly. On our next inhalation, sucking the belly button in, reaching up with the fingertips. Exhale, folding forwards. Again, finding a deep stretch into the spine. We're also going to be working a little bit into the glutes and the IT band here. Allowing the head, the neck to relax. We'll inhale here deeply. We'll exhale here smoothly. On your next inhalation, walking the hands into the body one by one. I'm just going to move so I can demo this final active pose a little bit more clearly. So palms of the feet together, Baddha Konasana, perhaps you already know where we're going. Peace fingers either around the big toes, or I like to wrap my hands under my feet because I've got such long arms, I never know what to do with them. Knees are drawing down towards the mat. You can take a few rocks like I'm doing here to begin opening up into the groin. And then when you're ready to, growing tall, crown of the head drawing up, belly button sucked in, elbows onto the insides of the legs, drawing the chest forwards. Again, like into our seated forward fold, we're trying to keep that flat back here. The body is engaged. We're drawing the body closer towards the ground. We're trying to find that stretch into the groin, 7 out of 10. We'll take 2 more rounds of breath here. Using those deep inhalations to create space, and those exhalations to fold deeper. Gently, slowly unraveling yourself all the way up to a final seated position, keeping the eyes closed or the gaze low, hands coming onto the thighs or in any kind of mudra which works for you. We'll take 3 shoulder rolls backwards. So as we inhale, we're drawing the shoulders up and around the ears. Exhale, we're drawing them back and down. Inhaling again, drawing the shoulders up and around the ears. Exhale, we're drawing them back and down, taking 1 more like this. Exhale, drawing those shoulders back and down. And now for our final few moments together, coming back to that intention which you set yourself at the beginning of today's practice. And considering how you can take that off the mat for the day ahead. Gently flipping open the eyes on your next inhalation. Thank you all so much for joining me for this morning yoga flow. Of course, you can do it at any time during the day, which suits your schedule. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much. Namaste, guys.